Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new show from the Franchise Tag. Throughout this season, we're going to be looking at Thursday night football previews. And of course, with the new season, guys, we've got two games to start the year. How are you feeling?
Look
You
forward to
didn't
it.
expect me to answer so quickly, did you?
No, look forward to it. Obviously, two late nights is ideal for the start of the season. Who doesn't want Thursday and Friday to be late? So that's always exciting. But now looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be good. We've been looking forward to it for ages. Should be good. We've got two really good matchups as well, haven't we, to start this season? I mean, that's something where they're basically they're playoff games. So it's like two really good playoff games to start the season. What more could you want?
It's nice to be rewarded, like you said, with two games to start the season. Well, we had the Lions and Chiefs last year. And I guess just as a general outlay for anyone who's watching first time on, when, of course, it's a new show, I guess the intention of this for each week is to have someone on as essentially, well, you all know Adam, but he's our guest for this one to bat for his Packers because they're going against Gareth's Eagles. But first, we'll talk about the Chiefs and Ravens because, of course, we've got the champs. That was painful to say. Going for a three-peat. I guess the main thing for this, while this has been picked, in my opinion, is obviously because the Ravens bottled it against the Chiefs, didn't they, when they lost 17-10 in the playoffs. That day, Travis Kelce and Zay Flowers both had over 100 yards and a touchdown. It was a pretty good game, even though it was low scoring. But I guess just to kick off, for anyone who's sort of new or watching for the first time, who are the key players for tomorrow that you guys see on, one player from each team? It doesn't have to be offense only, but I did highlight two offensive players.
For me, there's obviously a big name that's moved over to the Ravens that I think everyone's interested to see. There's that King Henry moved from the Titans over to the Ravens. They're a team that were quite good on the rush anyway. They're a team that, like, obviously Lamar is dead mobile as a quarterback as well, and you literally have got a battering ram of a running back there who you do wonder when his down season's going to start because obviously he's getting towards that age now. But they've got a good O-line. They've got him back there. He's going to do some serious yardage on the ground as normal. And it's going to be interesting how the offense evolves with it maybe not being so reliant on Lamar to do that magic and extend those plays and try and find whatever unknown named receiver or Andrews that's about. So it's going to be really interesting how the offense evolves as a result of having, in effect, what has been one of the premier backs for the last however many years he's been in the league.
Adam, just to jump in, I know we said about highlighting players, but obviously Gareth raised a very good point. Like Derrick Henry is a future Hall of Fame running back. Anyone who's watched NFL for years now, multiple rushing titles. He's even caused the Chiefs problems in the playoffs before when he was on the Titans. How much of a good addition is he for the Ravens? I know we're only on week one, but this is clearly a team that wants to obviously get past KC and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think they wanted to. So last year, the Ravens they brought in Todd Monken, didn't they, as their OC, and the idea was to sort of pass the ball a lot more and be a slightly different offense to what we've seen from the Ravens over the years. It does kind of feel like this year we're going to go back a little bit more to how it was, and obviously bringing in someone like Derrick Henry, it's a huge thing for them because obviously when you look at the type of running backs they've had, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins over the last few years, although they're good running backs, they have dealt with injuries. They haven't been able to stay fit, especially Dobbins, and so I think that having a guy who, despite his age, is actually probably quite reliable. In that,
now.
Yeah, it feels like I probably have, but 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 he is. It's like his whole career he's been very reliable when it comes to that, and so you kind of feel like it would be surprising if he did go down. I feel like there's not going to be a drop off from him this year. He doesn't. He looks ridiculous whenever you see any of the training. I mean, it's insane how he looks, and you just kind of feel like he's gonna keep that going. So yeah, I mean, he's a massive player for them on that offense, and I think him and you don't really know which one's going to take the ball, do you? It's either going to be him or Lamar, and I think that's going to be huge for them, and it's going to really sort of cause different defenses a lot of problems.
Yeah, I also think the Ravens essentially, like you just made me think this when you said about their running backs. Even when that Super Bowl run, when they had Ray Rice, I feel like this year we might see more of Isaiah Likely, him and Mark
Yeah.
Andrews, two tight end sets, and I think Lamar works better with big body guys. And Zay Flowers, I mean, he was incredible at the back end of last year, so he could emerge as well. Gareth, you were going to say something else about the Ravens before I ask about the
And
Chiefs. Go on.
particularly, obviously, now you know that their running back, who their running back is, and who the primary back is going to be. Obviously, the kind of player that he is, having a mobile quarterback there, it sets up you got the likes of the RPOs, then suddenly become
Yeah.
much more of a potential factor. You've also got the play action stuff that becomes, when you've got a running back that everyone's petrified of, so they fill the box, suddenly becomes a much bigger threat further down the field. And you particularly bear in mind, I think their wide receiver room is better than last year. It's still not amazing, but I think it is better than last year. And if you can get one of the speedier guys down the field on a good play action, because of the fact that everyone's loaded the box because they're petrified of being trampled, it just opens the whole offense. And even if Lamar then just shifts off to the left or to the right and takes that open field that is now there, the yardage he can get on the ground himself is also frightening. So it's going to be a really tricky offense for defenses to call, because you don't know who's going to be with holding the ball, and because they're both going to want a good number of touches, because there's no way Derrick Henry's coming there to be a limited touches back. He's going to want to carry the ball extensive number of times per game. So it's going to be really interesting how that offense evolves from last year. It should be really exciting to see.
And then when we talk about the Chiefs offense, I'm going to start with Adam on this one, obviously, but mainly because we spoke about Rashee Rice so much last season, but obviously there's been looming suspensions, Marquise Brown's out. We've seen Patrick Mahomes do things before with a limited set of receivers, and I purposely highlighted Travis Kelce because he is the obvious guy. But I guess week one, whilst it's unpredictable, where else do you see sort of the playmaking ability coming from this Chiefs team early in the season?
I think that it seems the whole Rice thing has been a bit strange, hasn't it? It does seem like he's going to end up playing quite a lot of this season. So it feels like they're just waiting for the police to sort themselves out and deal with all of that before the NFL do anything. So I think he will be out there. He's going to be a massive receiver for Patrick Mahomes this year. The one I'm looking forward to is Xavier Worthy, just to see what he does. I mean, I think it's been a very long time since Mahomes and the Chiefs have had this sort of speedster since Tyreek Hill went. And so I think that having this guy who does have the speed, who can take it over the top and get through defenses quickly, I think that's going to be someone that is, can he be, I'm not saying he's going to be Tyreek Hill, but can he be more Tyreek Hill rather than MVS sort of thing, where it kind of just didn't really work? So I think that's what you're dealing with. That's going to be, I think he's definitely one that's going to be interesting to see how he does in his first game. Obviously, it's just his first game, so who knows? It's not the end of the world if he doesn't do much, but I think offensively he's definitely the guy.
And then in terms of the game, where do you both see it going? Who have you got to win? Because I feel like, I guess feeding into that, do you think the Ravens need to win this game? I know it's one game, it's the opening week, but the Lions beat them last year. I know they're in opposite conferences. I think they took a lot of confidence from that, obviously, on their run to the NFC title game. And I feel like the Ravens, you guys can tell me I'm wrong, I feel like they probably need this win more than Kansas City.
I think you look at Kansas City's division. I think that they can get away with dropping a game earlier. I know obviously we expect the Chargers to be better this year and stuff like that, but overall it's Kansas City's division to win. Everyone else is kind of playing for second in that division, so they can't afford to drop one. It would be interesting to see them do it again. It'd be interesting to see what happens. So bearing in mind, obviously, there's all the hype about the presentation at the beginning and all that kind of the unfurling of the banners and all this kind of stuff. And then for them to drop a defeat is always a bit of an anticlimax after all that. But I think the Chiefs generally, for them, as long as their defense, their offense plays okay, their defense is usually good enough to carry them in a lot of games. And their defense proved last year, no matter who it was up against, it could be resilient and it can shut opposition down. So I personally have the Chiefs winning this one. But I do think it'll be a close game either way.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters for either team that much. I mean, I know that the Ravens are in a harder division, and so you could argue that, you know, going one down against a team like the Bengals obviously would put them at a disadvantage, but they're not, you know, at some point the Bengals are going to have a tough matchup and the Ravens will have an easier one, and it kind of, to a certain degree, it equals itself out. With the Chiefs, I as Gareth said, it would be a bit of an anticlimax, but I don't think they're that bothered, to be honest, when it comes to that. This isn't the time that they excel, is it? It's like, I think the Chiefs have now kind of put themselves in that position where it's almost like, I know this sounds stupid, winning the division is all that matters, but winning, like being the number one seed, is irrelevant to them. It doesn't matter if they're at home, it doesn't matter if they're away, they're going to go and get the job done. That kind of they have that feel about them now. And that, yeah, I mean, they have had teams that they've lost to in the past, but you kind of feel like they're going to cause any team a problem all the time that they've got Mahomes there. So I think that this, as a specific game, it's not massively important, but obviously each team would like to get off to a good start.
It almost remind me of, like, sorry to bring it up because I know they're not very great for you these days, Sky, but old school Patriots of Brady and Gronk.
Yeah.
During the regular season, it didn't always work. Sometimes during the regular season, they weren't that great.
He always says this to me.
The second the postseason came in,
yeah,
they switched on, they focused, and no matter where they were, home or away, they won, and they got to Super Bowls and won them, unless they faced an NFC East opposition, obviously. But that's what they remind me of now. So opening day defeat isn't killer for them. That they'll be in the playoffs and they'll probably go all the way to the championship game.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that was because I think the narrative going to last year was, oh my God, the Chiefs have to go on the road now. You know, Mahomes has never played a road playoff game, and then they've gone and got it done again. So I guess it was more so like the Ravens, in a way, maybe they think, oh, if we do lose, well, it doesn't matter because it's Mahomes anyway. We're gonna have to play him at some point. But Adam, did you pick someone, or did I? You say
no? I think the Chiefs will win it. I think that I think they probably will. I think it'll be very close. The only reason I'm going on their side is that they're at home and they're going to have the crowd behind them, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be an incredibly close game, and kind of a little bit like Super Bowls. Normally, the first game of the season is a bit of a downer.
Yeah, so everyone's trying to get up to speed, and it sort of kicks
you tend not to get a massive scoring game. The defenses tend to keep it quite close. So, yeah, I think it'll be tight. The over/unders at 47, which feels a little high to me. Yeah. So I think it might go lower than that. But yeah, I like the Chiefs.
The Lions Chiefs was 21-20, I think. Even that last year was quite low scoring. So. Yeah, you threw your betting in. There you go. The under for everyone.
I'm not going to be doing this on the betting show, so you're going to have some betting on these two games. So, you know.
Well, we'll move on to the one that. Well, I'm excited to hear. You know, get you guys discussing who's the best in terms of certain positions. But just for anyone who's not aware, this game will be in Brazil between the Packers and the Eagles. And I feel like from what I've read, it seems to be a lot more Eagles fans who've made their way over. So it's interesting, obviously, as we all know, international series London 2007, but now they're starting to branch out. What do you think it means for sort of the growth in the game? And to be transparent, do you think it's good that they've gone to Brazil? Because I feel like, yes, there's a market there, but we saw what happened with Mexico, and it was almost like a novelty game. Whereas, like, when we've heard about Spain and Ireland, I think us on the pod and in general, the community has been quite excited because they're building more towards a European league. So what are your thoughts on them having a game in Brazil?
So Brazil is obviously interesting because the market is huge over there. It's one of the biggest.
Good night out, I'm sure, as well.
It's obviously one of the biggest markets. It's easily the biggest market in South America they've got. As you mentioned, a bit like Mexico, also had a massive market for it. Bringing the opening game is obviously interesting because of the time of year in which it is. Obviously, they've not got great conditions at the moment. I think the other worry is the fact that they pick two teams that wear green and you're not allowed to wear green. Like, what was the logic behind that move of having two teams that are notorious for wearing green?
Maybe they'll both wear their road jerseys. Just have them all in white. Imagine what sort of scoreline we get then.
Yeah, so that's the only thing that I didn't quite understand is why you're going to take two teams that wear a particular colour and then ban them from wearing that colour, because only the Brazil national teams are apparently allowed to wear green in Brazil. It just that felt odd in itself. But overall, I think it'd be interesting to see how the Brazilian fans are. I can imagine it to be dead, the atmosphere to be dead loud, very noisy. So it will be interesting to watch that. But yeah, just don't pick two teams wearing green to play in a place that bans that.
I was going to say from that, and one of the reasons I asked is because I do genuinely think it's good that I understand. I've read Roger Goodell's statement about branching out and growing the game, but for me, it just feels weird for it to be week one because it's sort of a renowned thing that you have these trips mid in the season. You build that team chemistry. I don't think really. I feel maybe it feels weirder for the players because they haven't played since some of them January. Or both teams obviously made the playoffs, but it must be weird for them to be like, must almost feel like it might have a preseason feel maybe for the first quarter.
Yeah, I think you might find that it does. And also, I know you say a lot of Eagle fans have travelled. I'm sure a lot of Packers fans will travel as well, but it probably does have a little bit of a strange preseason type feel to it. I think the other thing with it is that it's I do wonder if there's kind of almost a bit of a logistical issue. Like it's quite a long flight, isn't it, from where Green Bay is and from where Philadelphia is, and so it's a long flight for them to go down. So I do wonder if there's a little bit of that involved in it as well. But then I don't know. It does seem like a strange one to do it on week one. I think really what you're probably looking at is that they wanted to make a big splash in a big market is probably what it is. We saw, didn't we, with Germany, the first year at Germany, they went and they did the Chiefs against the Dolphins. They got a big, two big teams, and now they're being punished for it this year because they've given them the Giants and the Panthers. So it's like, and now like you're starting to see that seems to be how it works, and you're seeing that with this one with the Packers and the Eagles. You've got two big teams, big markets themselves, who have got fans across the whole of America who will travel. So, I think that's probably what it's about. As for it being week one, it might have a bit of a preseason feel to it, but I think very quickly the players will probably get into it, so it won't be too bad.
Right, we'll move on to actually talk about the game itself. But before, I read that there's a global superstar, Anita, performing at halftime. I never heard of her. I thought they were going to get Fred out from roll him out for halftime, but yeah, we'll see what she's like. In terms of, let's start with the quarterbacks, right? Because I feel like we all feel like in our own group and also generally there's quite a big opinion on both these guys. Jordan Love's just been paid. I'm on the side that I think that was well deserved. Seen a lot of people say, why have they done that? Jalen Hurts made a Super Bowl, but he's been criticized for, not being in, say, top 5 or even top 10 categories on a lot of metrics, whether it be arm strength, ball placement, etc. But he's obviously a great dual threat quarterback. Who is better of the two? And before I throw it over, the thing that I found interesting was last year, I know everyone says it was one season, but Jordan Love had over 4,000 yards, 32 touchdowns, 11 picks. Jalen Hurts in 3 full seasons as a starter has not had over 4,000 yards. And I know he's a different quarterback. I know he offers more of a threat, but that's what I'm throwing out as the bait. So go.
I'm going to let him take this to begin with, and then I'll counter after.
It's a stupid question.
Oh, thanks, Adam.
It's how I'm going to throw it back at you, Ad. You've got two quarterbacks who operate in completely different ways. Now, the reason that Jalen Hurts is not going to throw for over 4,000 yards is because he's going to constantly be pushed in the end zone by whoever's there, the running back behind him when they're like a yard away. But he's going to get these rushing touchdowns, which is that's what he does. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like that's what it is. So I don't think there is a better quarterback here. I think they're probably both good in their own right. The only thing is, is that at the moment, when it comes to Jordan Love, he's only had so long that he's been actually playing.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, is that that's the same with every young quarterback that comes up. It's like you can only sort of give them so much. The reason that Love, the promising thing about Love is that he's done all this in such a short space of time when it comes to actually playing time. So you do sort of think to yourself, so what more can he do and what more can he achieve? Because you got to think he's only going to get better in the same way that Jalen Hurts, when he first started, only got better. So, yeah, it's a stupid question, but I won't have a go at you too much. So.
Before Gareth jumps in, I'm glad you answered it the way you did, because I think for anyone who's new to the NFL, that is a big thing that you see in the media. And look, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a big thing in the US media of ranking players without giving the perspective of saying this person does well in that scheme or under that head coach. And they're both two great young quarterbacks. Like you said, they do things completely differently. And Jalen Hurts, the only knock on him, which is not even a knock, is what you said. Oh, he's good at scrambling and getting in the end zone. Well, so many other quarterbacks can't do that. So, yeah, you basically gave me the answer that I kind of wanted, but you still made me feel, it hurt me a bit. But, yeah. But there you go. But Gareth, how do you feel about both of these guys?
To be fair, obviously, you got a very small sample size in Jordan Love. I think paying the guy at the highest paid QB salary after such a short period of time does feel odd, but I think that's the way the QB market's gone now. The QB, whatever QB is getting paid a stupid amount of money, regardless of whether he is actually the best quarterback or whether he's a middle of the road quarterback. And that's not me saying Jordan Love's a middle of the road quarterback. Also, I think last year, obviously, Jalen Hurts this year's on a bit of a redemption year, because I think he was injured all last year. It was well known that he was injured anyway, but I think they had a bigger injury there that they literally were trying to cover all season long. And it would explain some of how he was. And having watched a quarterback in his predecessor in Carson Wentz, who literally, I saw what happened to him when he in effect was trying to play through an injury. He didn't look the same guy. Don't get me wrong, when he's 1 yard out, getting pushed by a running back, there wasn't the stats on 97%, or something stupid.
It's getting to Tom QB sneak levels at this point.
I think he's better than that. I think the tush push is better than Brady.
There's no brotherly love in New England. That's why it's a Philly thing.
Obviously, it's going to be interesting that transition this year, because bear in mind, obviously, we have the best centre. I don't think the best centre in football retires if he doesn't think Cam Jurgens is ready to take his place. I think that the only reason Kelsey has gone, do you know what, I'm stepping away, is because he's confident that a similar sized centre who got brought in because apparently he was Kelsey-esque was ready to go. Is his third year, Cam Jurgens, in his third year?
Yeah. Learn, for sure, yeah.
So he's spent a lot of time learning. So I think obviously they are very, very different quarterbacks. Jalen, people say Jalen doesn't have the passing ability, but that Super Bowl versus Patrick Mahomes, I'm pretty sure he went toe for toe with brilliant throw after brilliant throw that game. The difference between the two is one fumble, and that is one aspect of Jalen's game he does need to tie up. Is fumbling. It needs to improve, but I know who I'd rather have that quarterback, because I would rather have a larger sample size than 8 good games, because that's how many I think I've counted that Jordan Love has had. And yeah, one of those games against the Cowboys, and I equally enjoyed that game along with the Packers fans. But I'd rather have Jalen because he fits better what we want to do, and I think that how we're set up this year is nothing short on Howie Roseman playing fantasy football.
Gareth's read my mind there, Adam, because I was going to use my great journalism train to flip the question and say, if you were starting a franchise, who would you pick of the two? Gareth has said Hurts, and you can love there, but who would you pick? And can I just say one thing before you answer, actually, with Jordan Love? I don't think I've seen so many podcasts and stuff talk about this with Jordan Love and media. I don't think anyone's mentioning the fact that he was drafted in 2020. He had to be paid at some point. Yes, it's only one season. You have to pay him now, and I think everyone sort of treated him as this guy's. Yes, he's had 1 year, but he's learned under Aaron Rodgers and done well. So, Yeah, I want to back my mate up there. But yeah, go on. I would pick Jordan Love, but who would you pick?
Yeah, so the reason that I would pick Jordan Love is because I feel that there's less chance of him getting injured during the rushing. This is the problem with every rushing quarterback. There's always going to be a limit to how long they're actually going to be able to do it, or more to the point, how long they're going to be able to do it at the standard that they're doing it for. So it's like, ignoring these two quarterbacks for a second, if you look at like Lamar's great at the moment. He's looking brilliant, but he's been doing it for a good number of years now. How long is he going to be able to do that if he keeps on getting hit all the time? Now, Jalen Hurts, he's not Lamar body type. He's a bit shorter, a bit smaller. He's fine, but it is going to be a question. A lot of people are talking about Anthony Richardson, aren't they? About what happened last year and how he got injured there. What's he going to be like this season? Jaden Daniels is another one. I personally think that if you have these rushing quarterbacks, there is a limit to how long they're going to be able to go for at the level that they're doing it for. Now, I actually think that Hurts is slightly different because he's been protected very, very well. So therefore, he does have the potential to move on a little bit more. But it's difficult. All you need is to just get hit when you go on a mad run, and that's it, and you're out. And that's where the problem comes in. So in a weird kind of way, it's not so much that I'd necessarily have Jordan Love over Jalen Hurts. It's probably more that I would rather have a sort of like a pocket passer type quarterback than a rushing quarterback. Now, if it's fantasy, we've got a completely different conversation. But if you're doing your own thing and you want to start your own franchise and all that, that's kind of more what I would personally go for. So that's why when it comes to Love and the money and all that sort of thing, it is literally just it's next one up. We all know that Brock Purdy's going to get paid a fortune. We all know that CJ Stroud is going to get paid a fortune when it's their time. And I understand that there hasn't been as much evidence of him in the NFL, but you've got a team who's had him there in the building for 3 years now before he even started doing that. And that's just the way that they do it. They always have done. They did it with Rodgers to a certain degree. I know they drafted they didn't draft Favre, they traded for him.
Yeah.
But they kind of like let him sit for a little bit and they sort of like saw what they got. So it's just what they do.
In terms of moving on to the running backs, obviously you guys both have new starters. Barkley now on the Eagles, Josh Jacobs. Who do you think's going to have? I know we're previewing tomorrow's game. When I say the bigger impact, who do you think is going to have the more seamless transition? I mean, obviously it's been mentioned about how good the Eagles O-line is, but who do you expect to sort of have a bigger impact tomorrow? And I guess, will that be the same throughout the season, or do you see one guy maybe getting better as the year goes on?
I think the difference is Eagles-wise, and I was obviously talking about running backs in isolation. I think the difference is where Barkley was previously, he was the only dot player on the board.
Yeah.
Whereas now, our offense, yes, okay, it can run through Barkley. And based on some of the trade-offs I've had of Adam recently, I think he prefers Jacobs at the moment, surely. But when you look at the Eagles, Barkley's got the easier transition because he doesn't have to be the guy. Yeah. He can be the guy, but he doesn't have to be. Like that whole offense, you've got first round pick AJ Brown, first round pick Smith, you've got first round pick Dotson, second round pick Goddard, you've got Barkley, first round pick, you've got Jalen Hurts, second round pick QB. Like, I know obviously first and second round picks don't equal success, but I think if you're building a team, you kind of want that number of first round picks on your field, surely. So I think that's where Barkley, he might not have the bigger impact on the game, but I think when he is free, he will literally light up the scoreboard due to the freedom he'll now have compared to how he was in New York, where he was the threat.
Yeah, I think Barkley is definitely, in a way, as you say, kind of like less of the ball means more impact with the ball kind of thing. I think that's going to be the thing with Barkley, and I think that's why he's definitely going to be worth worth being there. The other thing is I don't. I mean, we've never really had much of a run game, Green Bay. To be brutally honest, I mean, we've sort of done bits of it, but nothing major. I don't see Jacob suddenly doing loads and sort of like. I mean, our form of the offense, and this is kind of where I think and this isn't at the Eagles. This is kind of at everybody. I think they're going to struggle with our offense because there's so many of them. There's so many different options, and they all doing sort of like different things as well. It's to a certain degree, it's a bit of a weird one to kind of get your head around for a Green Bay fan, let alone for everyone else, where it's almost like, you have got Christian Watson, who's got a bit of speed if his hamstring decides to work. Romeo Dobbs is kind of a bit more of a solid sort of guy. Dontavian Wicks separates for fun. Jaden Reed is kind of a bit Debo-like in a way, just a bit smaller. Then you do have Josh Jacobs, who is more of a sort of a normal kind of running back. But then you've got yourself two decent tight ends as well in Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. So there's a lot of options, and I think that's where teams will struggle to sort of almost like you're going to have to plan for every single one. But are you going to be able to work at, like, when they're on the field, if he keeps changing the personnel all the time, that means your defense needs to have everything down exactly right, knowing, right, this guy's on now, therefore we do this. And that's kind of where it becomes a bit awkward, I think.
With the Eagles, the other end, they're actually stronger in each of those positions. You look at wide receiver, AJ Brown is definitely the better wide receiver.
I think AJ Brown absolutely. I think AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. I think anyone who was starting a team, you would pick AJ Brown and Devonta Smith over probably all of the Green Bay guys. But I think it's the versatility where it becomes difficult for the defenses to match up, to knowing exactly what's going on during the chaos of a game. That's the problem.
Well, I'll throw the other way around on the Eagles. You can't go man for man on the Eagles. You just flat out can't do it. Defensively, you cannot go round for man because you've got Smith, you've got AJ and Smith covered. So you're going to have a safety or a corner 3 who's going to be slightly slower than Dotson. Okay, you may have him covered up. Okay, who's now on Dallas Goedert? Okay, you've got him sorted. Jalen Hurts is ran down the field on you for 20 yards, or Barkley. The Eagles' offense, I think, is going to be a lot more explosive. It's going to be consistently more explosive.
I think you've got the playmakers, definitely. I think that's where it's almost like having them guys with that sort of upper echelon type of talent. That's where you sort of will see that they're incredibly good. But I just think it's like, I think that's where you're to a certain degree, the whole thing is kind of nitpicking a little bit, where it's almost like both teams are very good. Both teams have got that sort of versatility about them. Both teams have got different things that they can do when it comes to the offense and the defense. So, it's like, as I said, it's a playoff game. We're waiting to happen later on down the year. It is what it is. So, I mean, both teams, I think, are going to be very, very difficult for any defenses in the future to deal with.
I think the advantage... Sorry to jump in. I think that the only thing that stops the Eagles with it being week 1 is new OC, new DC. I think it's going to be interesting how the new scheme of Kellen Moore comes in week 1. So I think that's where it might be a better time for you to play us. I don't think you want to be playing us week 7, 8, 9, 10. Week 1, like last year, to be fair, I think it was the Patriots team that almost took us week 1 last year.
Somehow we almost beat you.
So like that was basically showed how our defense was more than anything. But I think playing us week 1 with our offense maybe will be a bit more stuttery than what we will be in 2, 3, 4 weeks. But because I think across the board, man for man offensively, we are better. I think our O-line's stronger. You've got Lane Johnson and you've got Jordan Mailata. Both of those guys are very well paid. I think you've got Cam Akers, stronger player, Cam Jurgens in the middle there at centre. I think you're literally looking at man for man, the Eagles have the better offense. The only player that you may say question overall is, yes, we've got a better wide receiver core. And I think if you put maybe Jordan Love there, and I've just said James, I prefer Jalen, but you may be more consistent because you may throw the ball more often than what we will do with our lineup. But I think offensively, man for man, we are the better side.
Do you think the best in the league, Gareth, the receivers?
Receivers, I definitely have us in top three.
I agree with Adam's point.
Receivers generally.
AJ Brown and Devonta Smith as a top two are obviously, they're up there with the best. But I do think the four that Adam mentioned, all being young and versatile, there's not many teams in the league that have four guys where I could genuinely say that they could probably all develop to be starters on most teams. They've all got their own talents.
I'm trying to think of who's got three receivers that would be considered better than the Eagles.
Yeah, because
even the only team that 49ers, that's mainly because of the tight ends thrown into the mix there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So if you take that out, that's where I sort of think wide receiver wise, it's like if you were like which team, because the Bengals are only two, aren't they now, and they got Jermaine Burton, so the rookie. So yeah, I don't think there would be many. I mean, Dotson, I think Dotson could do well for you. He did really well in his rookie year, and he kind of fell off, and it was a bit strange. But maybe a change of scenery will help him.
And part of you does wonder whether it was how that team was run last year as well, a little bit. And you got to remember as well, he's gone from being a wide receiver 2 to in effect being a wide receiver 3 this year. So he's going to be, he's in the, I think, assuming the slot up against a safety who's going to be that step or two slower than him. So
yeah, I like him. I think he'll do well. I think he'll do well for you.
And let's not forget Johnny Wilson.
Because other than the teams you were mentioning, the only ones, we mentioned it in the chat earlier, maybe Seattle, but Ed Smith and Jigba's got to obviously prove himself.
Yeah.
Texans maybe, but then even I'm not sold on Diggs as a personality. But you got Nico Collins, Tank Dell, but the Eagles are definitely up there. So I was just curious. But Gareth said top 3, not 1, so he was being modest there.
You got to have room for improvement, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. I agree that your offense in general is probably better. I guess one thing, just to, obviously we won't go through the entire defenses, but in terms of tomorrow and this season, if you guys had to pick one player from your defense, probably more difficult for Gareth because a lot of playmakers on the Eagles defense. But who would you pick as your main go-to X factor for tomorrow night and in general?
I think our guy who is new is going to be Xavier McKinney. I think that's going to be huge for us. It was an area that we spent nothing on for years, just completely didn't care less about the safety position. And I think that by bringing him in as a bit of a ball hawk, captain from the Giants last year, I think that's going to be great to have that sort of that voice and that leader on the defense. So yeah, I really like him. I think he'll do well for him. I mean, there's Rashawn Gary's going to be there and Preston Smith's going to be there, but I think having that guy sort of in the middle of the field, I think is important and something that we've partly a reason why our defense has never really been that amazing, but could push on this year a bit more.
I'm also choosing a safety. I'm going for Gardner Johnson, the guy who showed that we missed him last year.
Yeah,
the guy who left, slagged off Philadelphia and its fans, and then came back to forgive him. He left basically in a cloud of anger, and then we saw how terrible we were without him. Went, do you know what? He's right. I think also having, it's going to sound bad, but Bradbury out makes it easy because it then means we can use the younger guys who both of them are excited to see. Mitchell, really excited to see, and obviously Dejean as well. I think it's going to be really exciting new additions. I'm excited to see Huff play.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be, obviously he's not going to be Hassan Riddick, but there's obviously, I'd say that he's not exactly going to be playing much for the Jets by the looks of it either at the moment. But he's not going to be him. But I think that when you've already got a good couple of lads through the middle in Georgia, core in the middle, throw in Huff on the edge, I think that's going to be quite dangerous. But yeah, no, Gardner Johnson's return to Philadelphia cannot be understated how important that is.
I thought you were going to go Jay Alexander and Jalen Carter, so you both surprised me. I expect big seasons from both of those guys. And I guess, the bit that everyone's waited for, they've waited 40 minutes to hear you say, who's going to win on Friday night? Who's going to come off the field doing a bit of a samba? I don't know if they're going to do like a Brazilian version of you know, when they give the turkey out, I don't know if they're going to give out, I don't know, some sort of like little dance with someone for whoever wins.
Well, mine meant to like the Brazilian like meat restaurants there for a second. Guy comes out with a sword.
Yeah, maybe.
Like,
Sword
and you
baby
get a bit
turn
of
up.
you
He
get
turns up everywhere for anything. Yeah, he'll be there. But who's going to win?
Eagles are going to come out, show they are better man for man offensively than Green Bay. Jalen Hurts is going to start his redemption tour, and Gardner Johnson's going to pick off the most expensive quarterback in the league.
What's the score? I feel like in this game we got you two got to pick a score in this one.
I don't think it's going to be opening game. You always have those bit of jitters a little bit, so I don't think it's going to be setting the world alight. So I'm going to go 21-14.
Oh wow, that is low.
That is
Wow.
low.
Yeah. I actually think it's the right time, as Gareth has said, I think it's the right time to play the Eagles. And I think because of that, we might just about get over the line. I think it'll be I think it'll be a field goal. I'd like 24-21 kind of score line. I think
we're getting 21 is what we're saying based on the Eagles are getting 21 is what we're saying. It's just differential the other way.
Yeah, whatever happens, the Eagles are getting 21. Sort of. Yeah, I think that's what we're sort of dealing with. I think it'll be very, very close. I think that you're probably right in the fact that if you go man for man, it is the better team. I just think that having, like you said, the new OC, the new DC, it's going to take them not long, but a little bit of time to get up to speed. We don't have that problem when it comes to the OC because obviously like LaFleur does all of that. So yeah, I think the fact that it's in a neutral venue, I think kind of helps the Packers a little bit as well. I think it's certainly much better than if it had been at the Eagles. So yeah, I think because of that, I think it's that will happen. But the one thing I would say, and this is what happens a lot, and you know, as much as it pains me to say, I think that normally the teams that win at the beginning of the season are not necessarily the best teams when you actually look at it. And I think that you saw with the Lions and Chiefs last year how it sort of happened, and then the Chiefs went and won it. And I think you see that quite a lot at the beginning because sometimes certain teams, they're not up to speed with different changes, and I think that's what you might see on this one.
Perfect. You both gone for your own teams, just as we expected. Everyone's happy. Well, I guess for anyone who's got to the end of the episode, who's been watching live, we have a college show happening tomorrow. Adam, you'll be there as well, won't you? So anyone who's more inclined to their college or enjoying the international break, you are, if you're a Man United fan, you'll have more time on your hands. So you can watch college football as well as the start of the NFL this season. And
you get depressed by the Patriots instead.
I can't wait for the season to start. I am absolutely ecstatic. But check us out on all socials. We mentioned about the picks as well. So we'll be doing our weekly picks. We'll be posting that as well. So you can laugh at us and ridicule us each week. But I feel like we'll probably get a lot more right than we get wrong. But I say that now. We'll see what happens come next week. And also, finally, on that note, Adam, we also have one new show on Monday too, with the review show. So everyone should stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah, we got Sky presenting that one as well, so watch out. That'll be fun. Me and Fred will be with you. So first review show, go through what happened on the weekend.
Perfect. Okay, well, until then, everyone, we will see you next time, and thanks for watching, and enjoy the late nights if you're like us, and we'll be up till 4 a.m. See you soon.